Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Bhakti community from live from Silicon Valley. This is the Bhakti Wisdom series. So thanks everyone who are able to join us today. Our host tonight is Navina Nirada, who is a spiritual entrepreneur, and he has been practicing Bhakti Yoga for almost 4 decades. We are very excited to have you, Navina, here. Um, my name is Pavani Bhakti, and I'm being held by Anushri on the Facebook and the social media. Welcome to the show, Navina.
Thank you, Pavani,
Welcome, Prabhu.
and welcome everybody to Bhakti community. I offer my respectful greetings and salutations to Srila Prabhupada. My spiritual topic is conquering fear. What is fear? And how can we conquer over fear? We will explore this topic tonight.
Prabhuji, just hold on. Mataji, can you confirm is the focus was on Prabhu or it's on me?
It's on Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you.
Mataji, it's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, in these uncertain times, I'm sure you've had certain fears that came up in your mind. So, list the top 3 fears that are going through your mind right now. What are the top 3 things that we're afraid of right now? Okay, I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to get the virus. I don't want to get kicked out of wherever, my house, my country, my family, my situation. These are just some examples, right? I'm not sure if I'm striking a chord with you here, but I see some people are nodding, some people are smiling, some people are thoughtful. Yeah, fear is definitely all pervasive.
Prabhu, there is a distortion on your line. We can't hear you.
Everyone is constantly on the lookout. Who is out to your job or when you're shopping, the person's really gone. It happens sometimes. I'm up here in the mountains. So there are so many fears in our lives, and we're going to explore some of them and how we can actually get rid of our fears. Is it better now?
It's windy. Now it was better, but when you were walking, it was not clear here.
Now it's better?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I remember when I was a small kid, I used to go out. I had chores to take care of the laundry. So oftentimes I forgot about it. So in the evenings, I would have to go out behind our house to fetch the laundry, which was hanging on laundry lines. And I remember very clearly how I got out of the house and it was already dark outside. And I opened the door and there's a light inside. And I saw a big monster in front of me, like a huge person. And I got super scared. And as I was moving, the big monster was also moving. So I got more scared. and after a while, I moved more. And then I realized the big monster is me. It's my shadow that's moving. So that was one of the major fears at that time. Then later on, we have different other fears that come up in our lives. When you travel a lot, you may have the fear that you may miss a flight. And that can be something that's quite reoccurring in our mindset. I'm sure you've had some experiences of fears that are kind of reoccurring, and you may even call they kind of gain proportions that you can call them, they're more like traumas. They may be based on some real experience, or they may be based on just some imaginative danger. We know from the animalistic propensity of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, the defending impetus is really strong. And so whether it be individuals or governments, people spend a great deal of energy on their defense. Like you have security systems to protect your house, to protect your computer, to protect your money, your assets, your family, your well-being, your health. It's actually quite astounding how much effort and energy goes into defense. Like literally billions and billions and trillions of dollars go into the effort of just trying to protect what we want to safeguard, so to speak. So one of the wisdoms of the yoga teachings is that tamasima jyotirgama in Sanskrit. It means come out of the darkness, come to the light. And that's a mantra, and you can translate in simple plain English, it's hit the light switch, which means turn on the light. Most of our fears are based on ignorance. We're afraid because of the unknown. Why are we so afraid of death? Because death represents not just defeat, but it represents the great unknown. We're not really sure, we're not really certain what's going to happen, how it's going to happen, and how will I fare, or is there anything after death? So you can take a note of that. Hit the light switch. So whenever you become fearful, shed some light on the situation. And that will actually change the paradigm quite drastically. Bring light into your life. And that's not just the physical light, but we'll discuss about different other aspects of that. Living a life of goodness, that will bring us closer to the light, and it will eradicate a great amount of fear and uncertainty. So at this point, we take a couple of questions and reflections. If there's something that comes to your mind of what we discussed so far, or something that you wanted to ask, now would be a good time.
Please feel free to unmute yourself.
Okay, so you carry on. Then oftentimes, if we're not really successful in finding that light switch because we're too much caught up in the problem, we're already too deep in it, we're already in the thick of it, we're already meditating, what if this happens, that will happen, if that will happen, this will happen. And then we go down that rabbit hole of fear. And so the mind is painting all these different scenarios and is really getting caught up in its own story. Has this ever happened to you, or is it just me?
It always happens.
Huh? It's like an almost daily occurrence, right? And then we go on in that doomsday scenario, on that mental voyage, and it just goes nowhere because it's not really substantial. It's really something imaginative. Which brings us to our second mantra, which is pull the mental plug. As soon as the mind starts going into a loop and starts chasing its own tail and going down those rabbit's holes, just pull the mental plug and take a step back by understanding through your intellect, your intelligence, that I am not this mental loop. I am not this mental faculty. Why am I not this mental faculty, this mental loop? Because I am the observer. Just like I am observing right now this screen and I'm seeing some of you. So I am the person who is looking through the eyes and I'm observing this. So I'm not this situation. In a similar way, if my mind is painting these scenarios, then I am not that scenario. I am the observer. I'm distinctly separate. I'm totally different from that situation. I'm involved as much as I want to be, but if I pull the mental plug and I cut that cord of identification, of attachment to the situation, I can immediately gain perspective and I can immediately gain a difference between myself and the situation. Have you ever tried that? So it's actually a very powerful tool, and the yoga texts help us by understanding the difference between body, mind, and spirit, and also between our mental landscape and our actual situation. That's why it's so important that we avail ourselves of this information on a regular basis. Otherwise, it's very easy to get caught up in the situations. Did you ever get caught up in a situation? It's very easy to get caught up in situations, right? Where you start thinking like, okay, this is how it is. And then just a while later, you realize maybe that wasn't the way it was. That wasn't the way it is. You know, it was something completely different. You know, like I thought this is a monster, but actually it was just my own shadow. We may perceive this person could be a threat, or it looks kind of, you know, scary, but most likely it's not. So our mental imaging, our mental imagery, our power projection and imagination is often, if not most of the time, working against us. So that's why it's important to be able to pull that mental plug and to gain distance and perspective and see through the eyes of the yoga texts, a more wisdom-oriented approach. And another approach in that is also that you can ask yourself, what would be worst case scenario? What would be the worst thing that could happen? And oftentimes, that is not so bad. So once you have already accepted what the worst case scenario could be, then you realize, hey, this is not such a big deal at all. Because often we get worked up about really minor things, you know? What if, let's say, what if there is no parking space, you know? Like I'm gonna drive to the shop and there is no parking spot. Has your mind ever thought like that? You know, what if I don't find my parking spot? Is it the end of the world? Not really, right? I mean, we're still here. And how many times did we experience that situation? Like countless times, right? So you just drove around the block and there was a parking spot around the corner and you took that one. And life just went on fine. But the mind got really worked up and was like, hey, what if this is not going to happen? How many of you ever were worried about what if there's no food today? Did you ever think like that? What will I eat? You know, or you go to some new place, or, you know, is there going to be something to eat? But as we have experienced over the years, that unless we decided to fast, there was very few situations where we were actually forced, you know, not to eat. So historic precedent shows that if we see the bigger context, most of our fears are actually baseless. They're completely fabricated by the mind and by our wrong sense of self and by our attachments. So the yoga texts tell us that if we see things in connection to the source, to the whole, to the complete, that we will be able to eradicate all fears from our life. Now, that's a pretty bold assumption. Wouldn't you agree? Eradicate all fears from my life? I mean, how can you say such a thing? I've got closets, I got lockers, I got I got a gamut full of fears, you know, that I've been worried and pondered about. But yes, that is the proclamation of the yoga texts, which tell us that if we see everything in connection to the source, then there will be no fear in our lives. So try it out in your own life and see how you can actually overcome fear. And believe it or not, this will be the greatest gift that you can give to yourself or to your dear and near ones or to anyone else in the world. If you can give people the gift of fearlessness, you will be known as a very charitable, very munificent personality. So that's an empowering situation, because you will be having the greatest gift to give to others. Now, first, of course, charity starts at home. We have to first become fearless ourselves, because if we are scared at every step of the way, then that will reflect on our lives, on our actions, on our decisions, and not just indecisiveness, but it will actually make us emotionally very brittle. We will become very thin-skinned and will be in constant anxiety about that next fear that is just looming around the corner, just about to happen. And it will really take away from our everyday experience and from our joys and interactions that we are supposed to enjoy. Did it ever happen to you that you had your favorite food or you were in your favorite situation, but then somehow some thought popped up in your mind, and you were thinking about one of your greatest fears, your greatest traumas, and it completely ruined the entire experience. You could not taste the food, you could not enjoy the situation, you could not relate to anyone or anything that was going on at that moment. I'm sure you've had that experience, and so do all of us, that simply this insane idea dropped into our head, and it completely changed the entire scenario. So fearlessness is really a admirable, a key quality of a bhakti yogi, of a practitioner, and it is available through this process. So we open up again if you have any comments or reflections or questions that you would like to share with us.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Very nice class, and I like the topic also. So my question is, sometimes the fear is also out of responsibility. For example, like in current situation, when our parents are so far away from us, I'm constantly worried about them, because they are alone. But when I think of not being fearful of this situation and not worry about them, then I feel that am I running away from my responsibility towards them? Or I mean, can you just put some more light on this situation and how to distinguish between the responsibility and the worry and fear? And so I'm like kind of confused between the two.
Yes, thank you for bringing up this important point. So being fearless doesn't mean that we are relinquishing our sense of responsibility. We are in this world and we have responsibilities, no doubt about that. And we try to act in an adequate way in order to fulfill our responsibilities. That also means that we recognize that there's only that much we can do. We are limited. Just like if your near and dear ones are 10,000 miles away, and how much are you going to do from your home in Silicon Valley to have impact on a situation that is so far removed? Of course, we can try, and we do try to give logistical support, to give moral support, to give financial support, to make all the arrangements that people are well and looked after. But ultimately, we realize that most of the things in this world are beyond our control. Yet that doesn't mean that we'll not try to influence the situation in the best possible manner. But we have to also acknowledge our own limitations. Otherwise, you go nuts. And that's just not a good state of mind to be in. Because if you become paranoid or very worrisome, then it will actually aggravate the situation. You know the scenario when either parents or children, they're continuously calling up at any time of the day or night, and just because of their own worry. And they're actually creating a bigger dilemma, a bigger problem and difficulty than there needs to be. So we should try to do our best and make all the arrangements. At the same time, we also understand that there's such a thing called daiva, or destiny. And things are working according to a bigger scheme. There is a plan out there in the universe, and it is a benevolent plan. And luckily, things are not going according to my plan. Because if things would be going according to my plan, then it would be a real mess, you know, then things would really not work that great. So, and that's why it's so important for each and every one of us to get into nature every day and just to connect with nature and with this energy where you realize that there is a plan, there is a structure, there is a very clear and well laid out strategy that's being enacted. And that's happening when we go out into nature and we see how things are actually, they're working. Have you ever gone into the woods and you realized, hey, every tree is in its right place, every bird is where it's supposed to be, every blade of grass is where it was meant to be. And here I am little human, and I'm so proud of my intellectual faculties, but all of this is completely beyond my control. But by witnessing it and by appreciating it, I can understand and acknowledge that there is a greater plan, and I can be part of that greater plan. And then once I connect myself with the greater plan, I can actually have some impact and make a difference. Whereas if I try to see myself as separate, as an independent agent, then I will continuously run into snags. I will continuously run into roadblocks, into obstacles, and I will see how I will headbutt my way through the galaxy, and I will be continuously frustrated in my attempts of trying to exert my supremacy. So Bhakti Yoga practitioners really make a point in trying to align themselves with the bigger plan that's there in nature and coming from divinity, so as to align themselves to that bigger plan or scheme of things and not to go against it. Because otherwise, it's easy to run into these dead ends where we feel like we're between the hammer and the hard plate and we're just being crushed by our situation, by our insurmountable obstacles that we're facing in life. I don't know if this helps.
Yes,
Okay.
Prabhuji, thank you. It
You're
helps,
welcome.
especially this line that there is a bigger plan and a Daivic plan that really helps and gives us confidence that, I mean, we should do what we can, but then there is Krishna protecting all of us. So.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why it's so important that we connect with nature, because then we can actually see that this plan is already in place and it's already unfolding as we speak. It's not just some hypothetical, abstract. It's not just some theory that's there somewhere in some book or in some code, but if you just happen to step outside of your own little cubicle, then you can actually see it, how every plant, how every animal, there's so many microcosmoses, and then there is the macrocosmos. Then we can actually appreciate the grandeur of this plan and see our own insignificance in relation to the big plan. And that should give us some confidence that, yeah, things are working out. Okay, there are some ripples and there are some things that are kind of frightening, but let's face it, the world has faced these types of situations since the day of yore, since time immemorial, and people have learned how to deal with them, and so should we. We're not that unique, so to speak. We're not that special. It is quite a regular type of a situation. So thank you. So this brings us to our third point of reflection, that if we have devotion, if we have a sense of appreciation, then we can find peace and solace and shelter even in times of despair and even in times of difficulty. And the example that is being given in the yoga texts is of Vidura. Vidura was the younger brother of Dhritarashtra, and he was ousted from the palace due to intrigues, and he had the choice of either fighting it out or going and leaving that situation. So he left the situation and went on pilgrimage for 20 years. And he only came back to give good words of advice to his older brother Dhritarashtra after 20 years of pilgrimage. And that was his, you could say, his gift to the family that kind of neglected him and put him into difficulty. But he contributed in a positive way by acting for the benefit of the people who mistreated him. And because he had that goodness of his heart and he had that true devotion, when Krishna was leaving the world, he was actually remembering Vidura and he was crying tears of compassion because of the hardship and the difficulty Vidura endured, and because of the great devotion that he manifested. So if we have devotion, we can see every situation as something beneficial. In the Mahabharata, there is the instructions of Vidura to his older brother, Dhritarashtra. It's called Vidura Niti. And there's one line that stuck in my mind that I would like to share with you because it's another key mantra that really gives me solace when I run into roadblocks, snags, and things that just don't add up. Okay, are you ready? So it is that we should highly regard loss which brings great gain. Highly regard loss which brings great gain. Just like Vidura, he lost his position in the palace, but he gained freedom from all the intrigues, from all the politics, from all the turmoil, from all the dangers. He was set free and he went on pilgrimage to visit all the holy places. So he was a free bird, so to speak, after he moved out from that situation. And he could give the greatest gift to his older brother and to all the people to come. And now, as a last mind exercise before I open up for questions and reflections, think of a situation where in the moment, in the situation, you thought, this is the worst thing that ever happened to me in my life. Okay, don't go too deep into it because I don't want to, break up some traumatic experiences and all of that. And then think 10 or 20 years down the road, how we look back on that situation that then was the worst thing in my life. And we think, actually, it was the best thing that could have happened. Because of this thing, so many new opportunities, so many new chances came upon. And I was really excited and happy that that happened. Has this ever happened to you, or is it just me? I see some are smiling, some are nodding, some are thinking. Somebody would like to share? I mean, you don't have to give the whole story, but just like, whatever you're comfortable in sharing.
Yes, I can share, Prabhu, but I would like to give chance to others because I already spoke.
Okay, anybody who would like to say something? Or reflect on this?
You can wave if in case you are not able to mute yourself. I've unmuted everyone. So in case you struggle, let me know. Or you can text on the chat room also, if that makes you comfortable.
Think worst case scenario and what had happened in your life. And then think a few years down the road, how that was actually a blessing in disguise. But it took a while to appreciate it.
You can go for it, Priyanka.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. So I had a very comfortable job and I liked it because it was working very well with my household responsibilities. And then I got laid off. and I was really, really sad. And I knew I could find more jobs, but I just loved that one so much because it was close. The timings were flexible. Everything was perfectly working. But then after that, after a little while, actually, I had to wait for almost an year, and then I got another job, which was not so close, little far, but actually that one was much better than first one. And I realized, oh my God, I was never trying to find another job because I was just so comfortable. But this other one gave me more learning. And so I mean, I felt that this, whatever happened actually was for my good.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, there is a plan. There's definitely a plan out there. And the more we can appreciate that plan, we can actually become peaceful and happy. I think someone else would like to say something there. I see a lot of thoughtful faces, but
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I
yeah.
also had an experience like that. So my sophomore year of high school, I took a math course that was really like not at my math level. I skipped a level and then went to the next one because I thought I could handle it. And I did not do well in that math course, like not the grade I wanted. And I remember, at the time, sophomore year, I really thought at the end of the semester that it was like the end of the world. I was like, I was not going to get into college. I was so upset about it. And I remember thinking then that it wasn't going to work out. But now, like, after I've graduated, like, I'm going to like a pretty good school. And looking back, I'm really glad that happened because like, I learned so much through this struggle, and I learned how to study so much better and just like learn how to ask for help when you need it. And so I just learned a lot of valuable life skills that I wouldn't have gone through if I hadn't struggled in that course.
Thank you for sharing that. And sometimes facing the worst case scenario and persevering and coming out stronger is the best thing that can happen to us because we realize that I'm up for it. I can do it. It's possible, you can face difficulties and reversals, and you can actually go beyond if you avail yourself of help and you endeavor, to the best of your capacity. Thank you for sharing that. Somebody else has got some reflection or question?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I have one story. So thank you for the class. When I was in my undergrad school, at the end, we have to go to a company and do our last semester as an internship there. So I was almost in, I mean, it was almost the end of the year, and I did not get into any company. I tried my level best. I had good grades, and many of other students, other peers who did not have so good grades, they got into the internship, and I did not. So I was really, really scared. I was really, really afraid what is going to happen. But at the very end, there was another company, American Express, which came, and by that time all of my peers were placed into some other company, so they could not sit for that. And yeah, I mean, that was the one of the best companies which came at the very last, and I got into that. I I don't know. So
and the rest is history, as they say.
yeah.
And here you are, voila, So yeah, save the best for last. Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you.
sometimes we think it's going to happen this way, it's going to happen that way. And then later on we realize my timing was completely off, was completely off because we want it all and we want it now. But our time scale is just not the way how things move. And that's why it's important that we study these wisdom texts and we see how great personalities have dealt with struggle, with reversal, with fear. Vidura was faced humiliation he was ostracized, he was kicked out, it was not clear, you know, where he's going to go, how he's going to maintain himself. But he carried on, he pushed forward. And he was one of the main heroes, one of the main protagonists of the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. And so today is a special day also. It's Bhadra Purnima, and it's the full moon day. And we should try to remember these personalities and these teachings. And if you don't have a Bhagavatam at home, please do let us know. Or you have a friend who would like to get a Bhagavatam, you can just send the address in and we'll make sure that they will get these books, because this knowledge is really liberating. Oftentimes I meet people who have difficulties in life. It can be in their job situation, it can be family-wise, it can be personal or interpersonal, it can be health-wise. They may have terminal diseases. And if we just take a moment to share this information with them and just help them contextualize their situation and put things in perspective and see the bigger picture, oftentimes people feel very, very liberated. I remember one time while distributing this knowledge to other people, one lady, she just was really out of shape. And she got this book and she got this information and she was saying, gosh, I am not this body. What a blessing. This is the best thing I've ever heard, you know, like I am not this body. So, but for the most of us, we still identify and we think, oh, I'm this body, I'm this job, I'm this situation, I'm this nationality, this is me. And if something works against that or is slightly putting that into question, then we think like this is the end of the world. We think like a part of me is going to die. I'm not going to make it. But if we study the yoga texts and we realize that actually I, the soul, the Atma, I'm eternal. I'm full of knowledge and I'm blissful. I'm actually ecstatic. So this is the greatest gift. This is money in the bank. Nobody can take that away from you. Therefore, yoga practitioners do well to daily at least reflect on one verse of the Bhagavad Gita, of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and to meditate on the meaning and the impact this has on their own personal lives. And I'm sure you have all had the experience that you had a certain question or doubt or problem, and you just picked up a book from the Bhagavatam or the Gita at random, and you just open it up and you just read something, and your answer was right there on the page. It was kind of just like right jumping at you. Has this ever happened to you? Or is it just me? So which proves to us that, you know, it's worth it to invest into a set of Srimad Bhagavatams and to share this knowledge, to share this wisdom with others, and help them also to appreciate this bhakti culture, because this is the need of the hour. It's fearlessness. Because when people are fearful, they act in very unpredictable and in very erratic ways. That's why it says never put an animal into danger, never corner it, never make it feel like it's under threat or it's attacked, because then it will act in very unpredictable ways. And the same thing goes with people. So if we want to have kind and loving and conducive relationships, it's important that we take this element of fear out of the equation. Because as long as we're fearful, oh, am I lovable? Am I good enough? Do I look okay? Am I accepted amongst my peers? You know, like some of you are just not bothered because you're older age group, you know, but when you're younger, right? When you're a teenager, it's like, what? This is it, you know? Am I accepted? Am I lovable? Am I good enough? But once we know that we're actually part of something bigger, we're actually part of divinity, we're born perfect, this is our birthright, then that's a very liberating, a very calming, and a very blissful state of mind. So fearlessness is possible. It is a gift that's available through this Bhakti tradition. I'd like to thank all of you for your kind attention and participation in tonight's little presentation. And if you want to become known as a great philanthropist, if you want to become known as the greatest, munificent, charitable person in the world, give this gift of fearlessness to as many people as you can. And start with yourself, because charity starts at home. Thank you for your kind attention. Hare Krishna. Have a great week. Have a great Bhadra Purnima. And again, if somebody still needs a set of Bhagavatams or would like to send some to somebody, you can just let us know and we'll make sure it will happen. Thank you all.
Thank you, Navina Prabhu. It was an amazing class. I was actually thinking of asking you some tips on how to, not have fearlessness, but your last example where you told about the lady, she was out of shape and then she suddenly realized, oh yeah, I'm not this body. And also the thing that, when you were thinking like the teenagers have these struggles, but even me, I'm older now, I still have this mind is uncontrollable, but your class is very, very helpful to make us realize that we are not the body. So thank you for your expert advice. So I would request everybody who has other questions, even offline, please reach out to Prabhu via the Bhakti community. He's always there to help us, answer us. He has 4 decades of experience, so let's please take his help if you all need. Thank you, Prabhu, and thanks everyone for your excellent participation. We will meet you again on Thursday on Sadhana On. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Bye.
Haribol. Thank you, Poonam Mataji.
Hare.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Have a nice evening. Haribol.
Thank you.